year is 1849. Archaeologists are trying to find proof that the Bible's stories are real, and so they are digging through northern Iraq. But instead of proof of the truth of the Bible, they find proof that the Bible's stories are directly taken from a much older epic. They find a clay tablet inscribed with literature that dates back to at least 2000 BCE. They find the oldest surviving story ever, the Epic of Gilgamesh. And this ancient clay tablet in Akkadian writing reveals that the whole flood thing with the ark and a man following divine instructions to build a boat and save two of each species, it turns out that the Epic of Gilgamesh had that story at least 1,000 years before the Bible. Eve taking Adam away from his animals and the snake taking immortality away from humanity. The Epic of Gilgamesh did it first. It told these stories before the Bible and any other mythologies ever did, and the Epic of Gilgamesh is in fact so epic that it is also your favorite hero's favorite hero story. All modern traditional hero journeys draw inspiration from the original hero Gilgamesh. Except maybe for the fact that Gilgamesh is a major rapist. What the fuck? Yeah, like literally every woman from his lifetime would confirm that in the days of Gilgamesh,
y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband because they raping everybody out here.
But hey, 4,000 years ago, right? I guess the bigger the piece of shit at the beginning, the bigger the hero's journey ahead. And tremendous piece of shit Gilgamesh started his journey in the city of Uruk, the world's first civilized city where he ruled as king. And by ruling, I mean that he believed everything in the city was his property. So every woman in Uruk was his from the moment she was born. But the hero of the story of Gilgamesh liked to wait with the assault on these women's virginity until the day the woman was set to be married, so he could force himself on her, before her, and sometimes also in front of her husband on their wedding day.
Because that's what heroes do.
But why would people let King Gilgamesh get away with this? Why didn't some angry husband just beat the guy up? Why didn't some woman, just bite his thing off? Or why didn't anyone do anything? Well, Gilgamesh was a demigod, and you can't fight a demigod. You can't bite a demigod's thing off because you just can't. Physics, I can't confirm it. I haven't tried either of the two, but I'm pretty sure it's very hard. No pun intended, but I'm pretty sure it's very hard. To be exact, Gilgamesh was a demigod because his father was the human but deified Lugal Banda, who ruled Uruk for 1,200 years, and Gilgamesh's mom was the goddess Nin Sun. So, demigod Gilgamesh, untouchable, ruling the nation of Uruk with an iron fist and even building a wall around it along with temples and statues of himself. So basically Trump's plan for America. But unlike today's dictators, King Gilgamesh was also a beautiful man. His hair was soft, long, curly, perfect, as was his magnificent beard, and he was way taller than the average man, made of pure muscle to the point where you'd think that he was juiced to the grills, but no. It was his divine juice flowing through his body. Gilgamesh was a specimen, 10 out of 10 beauty, and 10 out of 10 terrible human being. Terrible. And that's the hero of our journey. But don't get hung up on the word hero, because remember that the original definition of a hero is not bound to good morals necessarily. A hero, by old definition, is just literally a protector or a defender. And Gilgamesh was in for quite the hero's journey, because the people of Uruk were tired of his tyranny, so they constantly prayed to the Sumerian gods to have mercy and make Gilgamesh just make him die, please. But the thing with gods is that
the gods have no mercy, that's why they're gods.
What the hell did they care if Gilgamesh was abusing his power over some low humans? In fact, he was a demigod, so for all they cared, he could just play video games all day. Which he did, because he used instant gaming, where Gilgamesh could get every video game for so cheap he didn't even have to steal the money from the weddings he crashed. So he played all these games whose mythologies he inspired, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, God of War Ragnarok, because look at these prices. I mean, look at them.
Wow!
And it doesn't even matter which system you're on, Instant Gaming has these discounts for every single platform. PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, you name it, they have it. And add aside personal real life opinion, I use Instant Gaming exclusively now. Just yesterday I bought Pathfinder, Path of the Righteous, and I'm not planning to buy games anywhere else anymore. It just doesn't make any sense. They're more expensive everywhere else, and Instant Gaming has them cheaper. Just gives me a code and I can just redeem the game from the official store, like Steam or the PlayStation Store, and it's all legit, no resale, not cracked, no restrictions. It's just cheaper because Instant Gaming is gangster like that. Forget about it. So if you click the link in my bio to get your games on Instant Gaming via my link, you save money on your games, and you're genuinely supporting this channel, which allows me to keep telling you stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh, the story of the demigod to whom humans were no better than animals are to humans, you know? And I don't need to remind you how humanity has historically treated any animal that's not a dog or a cat. So the gods truly didn't give a flying F about humanity's prayers to save them from Gilgamesh, except for one goddess. Aruru, also known under the name of Ninhursag, the goddess who created humanity out of clay in the first place. And she was tired of Gilgamesh disrespecting her creations, so she created another being that would become Gilgamesh's equal to steal his attention away from bullying humanity and give him something else to think about. That being was Enkidu, a hybrid being, half man, half animal, and he grew up alongside the animals in the cedar forest that surrounded Uruk, a forest that was home to not only animals but also spirits and minor deities, and sections of the forest were even sacred to the gods and protected by the mighty and giant demigod Humbaba, the guardian of the forest. As he matured into his adult body, Enkidu quickly became one with the wildlife. He ate grass with the gazelles, but grew into a body so huge and muscular that the lions made way for him at the watering hole. Both predator and prey were united in their admiration for almighty Enkidu, and by all accounts and purposes, while the protector of the cedar forest and its many supernatural beings was Humbaba, Enkidu was the protector of its animals, aka a big problem for all the hunters trying to eat those animals. The cedar forests were obviously the city of Uruk's hunters' hunting grounds, but now any hunter that tried to kill an animal was slain by Enkidu, and not in the way Beyonce slays, nah, in the way that he just straight up killed them. Enkidu kept the animals safe, and he terrified the hunters out of ever entering the forest, so Enkidu was a problem for Uruk because meat was no longer on the menu, so Enkidu had to be dealt with. And how do you construct the downfall of a powerful man? Exactly, prostitutes. One wise hunter suggested that once Enkidu has sex with a woman, the animals will sense that he is no longer pure, and they will no longer accept him as one of their own, and thus Enkidu will no longer be able to call the forest his home. AKA once Enkidu busts a nut for the first time, he'll do like squirrels do and chase nuts for the rest of his life. It was absolutely genius. And so they sent in the sacred prostitute Shamhat to undress herself in front of Enkidu, and once he saw her, 6 days and 7 nights of straight up lovemaking. And during that sex marathon, Enkidu released so much of his animal energy and consumed so much of Shamhat's humanity that he could now speak the human tongue.
You know I'm talking. You know what I'm saying. You know.
He shed his animal traits, and the animals no longer saw him as one of them. They cast him out, and Enkidu had to go with Shamhat to find his place in Uruk, where she made his introduction to human civilization complete. She shaved the hair from his muscular body, anointed him in oil, and introduced him to human food and beer. And once the alcohol flowed through his body and relaxed Enkidu in his new environment, Shamhat told him about the king of Uruk, Gilgamesh. 10 out of 10 beauty, 10 out of 10 straight up terrible human being. And Enkidu was both fascinated and horrified by what he heard. He wanted to meet this beautiful man with a body and strength that rivals his own, but he couldn't believe that such a person blessed with all that Enkidu was blessed with, would abuse his powers by taking advantage of those who are entrusted in his care as king. And that same night, while Enkidu learned of Gilgamesh for the first time, the king also had a dream in his royal bedchambers, a dream that woke him, in which a meteor landed in a field outside of Uruk, and Gilgamesh was drawn to the meteor as if it were a woman, and feared losing it as if it were his loved one. And because Gilgamesh couldn't handle interpreting a weird dream on his own, he ran to his mom so that she can explain the dream to him and make him feel better. And his mom told him that the meteor in his dream represents a man he will soon meet. In exact words, she told him, "There will come to you a strong one, a companion who rescues a friend. He will be mighty in the land, strength will be his, like the force of heaven, so mighty will be his strength. You will fall in love with him like a woman, and you will caress him. He will be mighty and rescue you time and again." And like any macho man, Gilgamesh heard this and only had one question on his mind. "So, does that mean I'm gay?" And his mother told him, "Well, your sexuality is actually highly disputed ever since your story was discovered in the 19th century, because for some weird reason, people in the future really care about other people's sexuality. And there will come a story in a book called The Bible, a story about a dude named David and his friend Jonathan, a story that also blurs some lines of homosexuality because it wasn't seen as a big deal when people wrote it, but again, people in the future really cared about this stuff, and it made them so uncomfortable that they just ignored homosexual undertones and started calling it bromance." Okay, so I'm a bro. Yes, Gilgamesh, you're a true bro. So happy with the interpretation of his dream, bro Gilgamesh couldn't wait to finally meet this bro that was meant to be his equal in strength. And to celebrate this happy occasion, our bro hero Gilgamesh decided to attend a wedding ceremony to rape the bride in front of her husband.
Because that's what heroes do.
But at that particular marriage, Enkidu was also in attendance, and once Gilgamesh went up to the bride with bad intentions, Enkidu blocked his path and told him that there will be none of that happening tonight. Gilgamesh couldn't believe what he was hearing, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Who was this brave man with this beautiful sculpted strong bro body standing in his way? What's more, once he slapped the man across his beautifully sculpted strong bro jawline to move him out the way, this man did not go down and died like all other men did. No, this man took that slap, he took it and he slapped Gilgamesh right back. Gilgamesh was shocked.
How can you slap? How can you slap? How can she slap? How can she slap me?
The crowd at the wedding knew a Dragon Ball level showdown about to go down when they saw one, and so they wisely cleared the area so that Gilgamesh and Enkidu can throw down in peace and throw down in violence. They did. For 6 days and 7 nights they fought each other, destroying parts of the city in their epic battle until Gilgamesh finally landed a punch that connected so cleanly that Enkidu went down for the count. But as he connected that beautiful blow to Enkidu's sculpted abs, he didn't just take Enkidu's breath away, he also took his own. For Gilgamesh realized this was the bro from his dream. This was the bro that his mom had told him about. So Gilgamesh helped the defeated Enkidu back up and felt nothing but respect for the man. In fact, he felt more than that. Just like for the meteor in the dream, he felt love for this man as if it were a woman. And so Gilgamesh and Enkidu, the super bros, embraced. And I quote from the original tablet here, where it is written that they then kissed and became friends. More than that, they were BFFs. Over the coming years, Gilgamesh and Enkidu became the best of friends, and with pure-hearted Enkidu by his side, Gilgamesh changed. This bro, who was his equal in strength and beauty, told Gilgamesh that maybe he should stop raping everybody. And I mean, if his bro told him not to do it, bro code demanded that Gilgamesh shall no longer do it. And so Gilgamesh became a good, a kind, a just king. And the mothers of Uruk no longer feared for their daughters, nor did the husbands of Uruk have to fear their wedding day any longer. The women of Uruk were safe, for Gilgamesh no longer had any desire for them, not when all his desires were satisfied by Enkidu. In a bro way, in a purely bro way, of course. I mean, they were filling their desires by doing bro things like wrestling, you know what I mean? And one day, Gilgamesh decided that to really test their strength and also strengthen their relationship, they should go on a brony moon. Yeah, they should go on an adventure and wrestle the legendary mighty guardian of the forest, Humbaba. And by wrestling it, Gilgamesh actually meant that they should kill it. And Enkidu said, yeah, but bro, what did Humbaba ever do to you? And Gilgamesh said, nothing, but bro, how epic would it be if we remembered for being the ones brave enough to fight and kill Humbaba? We would be like immortalized in epics for all time. And Enkidu said, yeah, bro. So they decided to go on this adventure to kill Humbaba. They ventured deep into the cedar forest to where Humbaba lived, but returning to the forest, Enkidu got scared, for he remembered that all the animals had always feared Humbaba, and he warned Gilgamesh, Humbaba, whose shout is the flood weapon, whose utterance is fire, and whose breath is death, can hear for a distance of 60 leagues through the forest, so who can penetrate his forest? Debility would seize any who penetrate his forest. And Gilgamesh said, sorry, what language was that? I don't speak bitch. So after setting Enkidu straight and reminding him of how manly they are, Gilgamesh told him that before they go and slay Humbaba, Gilgamesh actually had to ask his mom if she thinks it's a good idea. So I'm not making this up, guys. So they went to see Gilgamesh's mom, the goddess Ninsun, and told her of their plans, asked if she thinks it's okay to kill Humbaba, and she said, you're a grown man, dude, stop asking me what to do. And Gilgamesh said, why? Is it because if I keep asking you, does that make me weak? Does that mean I'm gay? But for God's sakes, Gilgamesh, maybe, I don't know. Maybe you are, I don't know. And Gilgamesh said, okay, so then can you adopt Enkidu so he's like officially my bro and no one will ever think we're lovers? So then Gilgamesh's mother formally adopted Enkidu as her son, and Enkidu officially became Gilgamesh's bro. And now the two official bros were ready to face and kill the guardian of the forest, and once they confronted Humbaba, he actually presented Enkidu with a reasonable argument. I knew you were some kind of powerful being from the moment you set foot in my forest, but I let you grow up in peace when I could have killed you. And now you want to come in here on some weak-ass 2 versus 1 punk thing and kill me? And Enkidu said, yes, that's exactly what I want to do.
Because that's what heroes do.
And so our great heroes Enkidu and Gilgamesh teamed up to fight innocent forest guardian Humbaba, and eventually Gilgamesh decapitated the forest guardian. And then on some real Princess Mononoke thing, he then decided to keep the head as a trophy, and since there was no more guardian of the forest, he also felt like chopping down some of those holy trees and those sacred areas of the forest to build himself a badass raft, because this forest guardian's decapitated head was heavy as hell and he wasn't gonna carry it all the way back home. So our 2 hero bros sailed back to Uruk on their raft made out of holy sacred wood, and with the last of his energy fading from this world, Humbaba cursed them. But not the first time somebody cursed Gilgamesh. Remember, the guy was a massive piece of shit. He didn't care. Not when he had a huge party to throw and celebrate how he totally decapitated the guardian of the forest. And so, to celebrate their gangster, Gilgamesh and Enkidu held a huge festival in Uruk, where everybody was suddenly cool with the king that had terrorized them for decades, and all joined Gilgamesh in celebrating his latest murder. Then, at the end of the party, Ishtar, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, showed up at Gilgamesh's doorstep. She had heard of the mighty king of Uruk and wanted to find out if all parts of him are as huge as the reputation that precedes him. In fact, she offered Gilgamesh to be her husband, a husband of a goddess. But Gilgamesh told Ishtar, and I quote here, "What will I get if I marry you? You are a brazier that goes out when it freezes, a flimsy door that keeps out neither wind nor drought, a palace that crushes a warrior, an elephant that knocks down its housing, water skin that soaks its bearer, weak stone that undermines a wall, a battering ram that destroys the wall for an enemy, shoe that pinches its wearer." Like, damn. It is known that Ishtar devours men, and by devouring them, I mean she curses them when she's done with them and they die, but calling her a flimsy dwarf, man, that's out of pocket, bro. Ishtar was furious and told Gilgamesh that he would regret rejecting her, and then this powerful goddess also ran to her dad to complain. But that was a problem because her dad was Anu, the king of the gods and divine personification of the sky, and his daughter threw such a fit, saying that if he doesn't punish Gilgamesh right now, she would raise the dead until they outnumber the living and ruin the earth, which actually had become Anu's favorite telenovela to watch. So he kind of didn't want that. And in response, the god King Anu unleashed a terrible calamity upon Uruk for its people's immoral behavior. 7 years filled with catastrophes, 7 years of floods, earthquakes, storms, famine, basically the same things that later happened in the Bible and most mythologies, except that here the calamity came in the form of the bull of heaven. Wherever it appeared, the bull brought disaster, and after 7 years of this, the people of Uruk were like, Gilgamesh, you're gonna kill that bull, or we're just gonna go extinct here? Gilgamesh and Enkidu remembered that they're supposed to be heroes and that this whole thing was literally their fault, and so they fought the bull together, and of course with the power of bromance, they defeated it. Then, upset that the goddess Ishtar made a move on his bro and then insulted him, Enkidu ripped off one of the bull's legs, went up to Ishtar, slapped her across the face with the bloody meat and told her, and I quote, "If I could vanquish you too, I'd treat you like this, I'd drape the guts over your arms." So then the gods cursed Enkidu to die. Like, bro, what did you expect? The 7-year calamity was enough to tip you off that you don't piss off the gods? The gods cursed the hell out of Enkidu, and he fell terribly sick. And as he lay there, slowly dying, Enkidu reflected on his life, and like any responsible man, he blamed the sacred prostitute Shamhat for all of this. If she hadn't taken his virginity, he never would have come here, he never would have left the forest, and he wouldn't be dying so miserably here now. He blamed her for all of this. But then he remembered that by coming here, he had also met his bro Gilgamesh, and then he thought about how much Gilgamesh loves him and how much Gilgamesh will mourn his death, and the thought of that filled Enkidu with peace and love as he passed away. Gilgamesh was absolutely devastated by the death of Enkidu, and he cried for 6 days and 7 nights straight as Enkidu's body decomposed in front of him. Unable to tear his eyes away, he witnessed this great body turning into dust, decompose. At that sight, Gilgamesh's sorrow over death turned into a fear of it, and that fear then turned into an obsession with overcoming death. For Gilgamesh realized, shall I die too? Am I not like Enkidu? Grief has entered my innermost being. I am afraid of death, and so I roam open country. And so Gilgamesh went to roam the open country in search of a way to defeat death, in search to become immortal, not invincible, immortal, but I haven't used that meme in a while and I really felt like using it, you know. That search led Gilgamesh to the end of the known world, to the mountains where the sun sets and rises, mountains where it was protected by fearsome scorpion warriors who, despite that fearsome appearance, were wise enough to understand that they were no match for a grieving bro on a mission. So they didn't mess with Gilgamesh and just advised him that to find what he is looking for, he would have to reach places that even the sun can't. To find immortality, he would have to outrun the sun and cross the waters of death. And so he did that. Gilgamesh outran the sun through eternal darkness and crossed the waters of death until he reached the end of existence itself. And there he found a bar with a divine barkeeper, Shiduri, the goddess of wisdom. And as she poured him a drink, Gilgamesh cried and told her the story of Enkidu, told her about how he seeks immortality. And after Shiduri listened to his tale of sorrow, the wise goddess told him, "Gilgamesh, wherefore do you wander? The eternal life you are seeking you shall not find. When the gods created mankind, they established death for mankind and withheld eternal life for themselves. And as for you, Gilgamesh, let your stomach be full. Always be happy, night and day. Make every day a delight. Night and day play and dance. Your clothes should be clean. Your head should be washed. You should bathe in water and look proudly on the little one holding your hand. Let your mate always be blissful in your loins. This, then, is the work of mankind. He who is alive should be happy. And Gilgamesh said, so can I do all that while being immortal, or? And so Shiduri pointed Gilgamesh in the direction of the immortal man Uttanapishtim, the man who once, lifetimes ago, survived the great flood the gods had sent to destroy humanity. Uttanapishtim survived the flood thanks to one of the gods advising him how to build a boat, save two of each species, and repopulate the earth. And so Uttanapishtim did build that boat, saved two of each species, and then outlasted the flood that destroyed all of humankind and raged for 6 days and 7 nights. And after it ended, it left Uttanapishtim's boat stranded on top of the mountain, where he waited for another 6 days and 7 nights until on the 7th day he sent out birds to find land, so that he knew his mission was complete. Yeah, basically Noah's story. I told you, but more on that later. And now Gilgamesh stood before Uttanapishtim and listened to this tale, amazed. This was an eternity ago, yet here Uttanapishtim was still alive. So Gilgamesh asked him how he gained immortality, and Uttanapishtim told him that he's only mortal because the gods wanted no human to survive their flood, but he did. And so, to not look like fools, they made him immortal just so that they can claim that they cleansed the worlds of humanity, that no human survived. Basically, they were covering up their screw-up. And then he warned Gilgamesh that his quest was foolish, and he told him, and I quote, "You must abandon your search. You only fill your flesh with grief. You only bring the distant days of reckoning closer. Mankind's fame is cut down like reeds in a reed bed. Nobody sees the face of death. Nobody hears the voice of death. Savage death just cuts mankind down." And Gilgamesh said, that's easy for you to say when you're mortal, bro, so what's up? You're gonna hook me up with that or what? So then Uttanapishtim told him that if Gilgamesh wants to really conquer death, he has to conquer its cousin sleep first by staying awake for 6 days and 7 nights. And Gilgamesh laughed. That's it? Seriously? Bro, you don't even know me. You don't know who you're talking to. I'm gonna stay awake for so long? Damn, I can stay awake?
I can do this all day.
So Gilgamesh sat against an uncomfortable rock and fell asleep immediately. Yeah, he failed that part hard. But used to always getting what he wants, he still insisted that he had to be immortal no matter what, and that the challenge was unfair anyway because he literally just outran the sun to get here, so he was actually super tired and he deserves another shot at immortality. So then Uttanapishtim told him that there's one more solution. There's a plant at the bottom of the ocean that restores youth to whoever eats it. And Gilgamesh was like, seriously? You could not have started with that? What the hell, bro? And so Gilgamesh traveled back to the known earth, dove to the bottom of said ocean to retrieve said plant, and once he found it, he brought it back to Uruk, where he planned to chop it up or something, you know, so that it can last him forever and keep him young forever. And with that, mission accomplished. Finally, Gilgamesh would be well, still immortal, but you know that. All that was left was to go home, and on the way home, Gilgamesh decided to take a bath before he greets and meets the people of Uruk after this long journey, so that he looks as presentable as a king should. But while he took that bath, Gilgamesh left the plant by the water, and a random common snake found the plant and ate it. When Gilgamesh came out the water, he just found the skin the snake had shed, like almost to flex on him and let him know that it rejuvenated while he's still getting older. At that sight, with the plant gone, Gilgamesh broke down then and there. He cried. He cried, for it dawned on him immortality was not something he could ever reach. Death was inevitable. Depressed as hell, Gilgamesh returned home to the city of Uruk, sat down on his throne, wiped the tears from his eyes, and looked upon his city. But after having been away for so long, for the first time, he He realized the eternal beauty of Uruk. He realized that this city had been here long before him, and it would go on to exist, carrying his reign and legacy long after him. Then Gilgamesh shamefully realized that all the ways he had tormented his people, all those stories would also continue to live on long after him, as would his adventures with Enkidu. For all of these things, the deeds of his life, that was his immortality, the legacy and stories he passed on to others. So as he sat there on the throne, Gilgamesh had reached the end of his hero's journey. Acceptance. After many successes and more failures, Gilgamesh came to terms with his limitations, and in accepting his mortality, he accepted his humanity, and with that, he gained the freedom to live fully, for his actions in life will echo in eternity. Gilgamesh decided to write down his cautionary tale, the Epic of Gilgamesh, inscribe it on a clay tablet, which he buried under the foundations of Uruk, where it would be discovered by archaeologists in 1849. Now, as I told you in the beginning, ironically, these archaeologists were looking for proof that the Bible stories are true, and instead found the oldest library in the world containing clay tablets which had the oldest surviving story inscribed on them, a story that was over 4,000 years old and inspired the tales of the Bible. And it did that in more ways than just the flood. The Epic of Gilgamesh also has a detailed description of a divine garden that I didn't really mention in this video because I had to cut things to keep the video somewhat short. But this garden in the Epic of Gilgamesh is said to be filled with gemstones like rubies, diamonds, and sapphires. Very specific for a garden to be filled with gemstones, and probably not a coincidence that the biblical Garden of Eden is also described in that way, to be filled with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, and more. And then there's the snake that steals immortality away from Gilgamesh and makes him come to terms with his mortality and humanity, just like the biblical snake whose trickery robs Adam and Eve and all of humanity of immortality and makes them come to terms with mortality. Then there's the fact that Enkidu was once one with the animal realm and didn't discover his humanity until a woman entered his life, just like Adam before Eve. Or the calamity set upon the city of Uruk to punish the immorality of its inhabitants, similar to Sodom and Gomorrah, or the very strong parallels in the relationship between Gilgamesh and Enkidu and David and Jonathan. All of this is a testament to how old the Epic of Gilgamesh is and how ancient Mesopotamia and its mythologies laid the foundation for all that followed. And not just the Bible, man. Don't even get me started on how much Greek mythology was inspired by it. I mean, the Greek gods are basically just the Sumerian gods with different names. Heracles is basically Gilgamesh's greatest fanboy and cosplaying as Gilgamesh, and all of Greek mythology finds its origins here, as do many others, if not all mythologies that we know of. So yeah, the Epic of Gilgamesh in ancient Mesopotamia, big deal. Too big of a deal to even get into it here. Maybe in another video. And since I led with the whole Bible thing, though I could have led with any mythology being inspired by the Epic of Gilgamesh, but you know the Bible is kind of a big deal, so I chose that. If you're still doubtful and think I'm reaching, I'll leave you with a significant passage that is both contained in the Bible and the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I think you'll find the similarities for yourself.